you so much for joining us here at the GCCM in Berlin. We're going to discuss here the latest technological innovation and developments in the messaging landscape. That's a mouthful, and we could discuss this topic actually in length. I would like to give my panelists, which I'm very honored to have here, all also virtual, to give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. And I'll start actually, of course, with Mila. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Mila. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer in BSG. We are doing both wholesale and enterprise messaging. We are also having the best testing tool on the market called Testillium, and of course, the perfect SMS and Viber hosted platform for the wholesale market.
Thank you so much. Scott?
My name is Scott Warner. I'm the Director of Emerging Services at S&BTS Global. S&BTS is a joint venture between SoftBank, the mobile operator in Japan, and Business Telecommunications Services. We provide CPaaS products for enterprises all over the world, covering messaging, voice, numbering, and lots of other services within that suite. My role is specifically within the messaging area that covers product, sales, procurement, and everything else messaging.
Okay, thank you. Good having you again, Scott. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bojan, over to you.
Thank you. My name is Bojan Sajak, and I'm Director for the Europe region in Globe Teleservices. So I've been on the market for the last 9 years and recently joined GTS as business development to be established here in the region. Well, Globe Teleservices is a new age tech company which creates new age telecom solutions for our global customer base. And it's a little bit different from my last position in Telesign, so it will be a new adventure to represent GTS in the region and for these products as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bojan. Good to have you. And now we have to sit for it, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the sponsor of this session, Ricardo. Tell us.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Ricardo Martins. I'm based in Lisbon and the iBasis Portugal office. I will tell you a bit more about iBasis in the keynote presentation. I've joined iBasis 3 years ago, and I'm currently VP for messaging sales, being in charge in the organization for all the commercial part for aggregators and MNOs.
Thank you, and fantastic having you. And again, thank you for sponsoring this session. If I may invite you, Ricardo, kindly to go to the desk and tell us all about your vision and the views of and strategy of iBasis. Thank you so much. And good luck, huh?
Yeah.
Because your boss is in the room.
I will try to be concise and within the limits. I already forgot the expression in Dutch, but so again, my idea is to go through the topic that Eric challenged us to discuss. So because technological innovations, it's a big word and can be a lot of things. Just before we dive into it, I just wanted to also explain you and give you a quick background about iBasis. Probably most of you know it already, but I don't know, iBasis is the independent telco operator in the market. And over the last 5 years, we actually just turned 5 last Friday. We grow through carve-out acquisitions. So since 2018, through top fan management, we were able to acquire several wholesale operations, from Altis Group with SFR, Mio, and Altis Dominicana, then iBasis from KPN. And through that consolidation, we just acquired, after Nosh, where I got included in the package. I normally say that they paid.
Yeah, we can still talk about it, by the way.
And then, last but not least, now on a serious note, we concluded this year the acquisition of Dimoco Messaging, which is a strong testimony of the effort and the strategic bet that iBasis is putting on the messaging domain. Associated to this, the company has 25 years, and with those 25 years, there's a lot of innovation. And so today, when the topic is about telecommunications innovation and new things happening, I think this matches the DNA of iBasis. We are third, also carrying voice, a lot of patents. We invented IP 25 years ago, and as the first independent international carrier, all this innovation is close to our heart, and is actually part of our strategy. In terms of strategy as well, and why we are on the messaging domain, it's just briefly highlighting that as having a starting point on voice and with the legacy business of voice, as a telco operator, we think that this starting point of voice is very important to then enable and accelerate the growth on new services. And talking about new services, obviously messaging is a very important domain, and that's what brings us here today. Then, just before going into the technological innovation, we talk about technological innovation because messaging is growing. And when we talk about messaging growth, I always like to quote my friend Nick Lane and Mobile Square, that is referencing the industry. And long story short, business is growing. It will continue to grow in the coming years. Brands are spending more money in messaging. So that effort and that growth on the market will for sure drive technological innovation. And when we talk about technological innovation, what can we speak about? What is the new big thing? Again, as you said, we can be here hours. At iBasis, we look to certain trends, and with our support of our CTO and our innovation committee, we see that actually artificial intelligence, it's something that starts to have practical results and practical applications, and that's something hopefully we'll discuss during these 45 minutes. Also the growth of IoT, and also the application of new technologies. We see the phase out of 2G and 3G, and the constant and steady growth of 5G deployment across the globe. So these are new technologies that present new solutions, new opportunities, new challenges that we need to try to address. Giving some concrete examples, when we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, how this is applicable to our daily job, and what we try to assess is how this technology can bring value and bring optimization, efficiency to the services we render today to our customers, to our internal processes, and to develop new products. We see that this can have actually an application through our portfolio. We have portfolio in voice, mobile, messaging, IoT, and cloud, and pretty much all over across our portfolio we could find applications. Because we are making decisions based on better data, on customer experience, customer service enhancement, network optimization, flash call authentication that I will talk to you in a few seconds, fraud detection, pricing analysis. So these are real activities that we do today, and then can be definitely enhanced by artificial intelligence and machine learning. A quick example of what is in place in iBasis today. We all know that flash call is a new trend on the market. It's happening. We see it happening not only as a messaging player, but as well as top 3 voice carrier in the world. So we carry a lot of voice minutes across our network. And basically what we are trying to do, and we are doing with this new supervised learning or machine learning that we have available, is to apply that data science to our processes to be able to identify better, faster, the existence of a flash call, so that then we can enable a decision. We can enable the MNO to decide if he wants to monetize, if he wants to block. So this is, it's still a process ongoing. It's a continuous improvement, but we can say today that with the support of our internal data scientists, that we are applying machine learning and deep learning principles to consolidate this approach. And again, this is not something in the future for the next 10 years. This is happening today already in iBasis. Related to this as well, and maybe part of these things, not some of them are related to messaging, some other not, but in the fraud detection and security, that again, it's a topic very close to our heart. We are also identifying trends and abnormal detection of trends through AI to enable real-time detecting, and then we can take actions to our network security, on privacy and data protection. So there's a lot of concrete use cases where we see already this technological development being applicable, and that's something we would like to discuss in more detail in the panel. Last but not least, and again, to throw a bit the topics into the floor. When we were preparing, besides the artificial intelligence that I already gave the examples, what else? What else could we see? What could be a telecommunication innovation? So for us, we look at these other 4 topics. The usage of SS7. iBasis is a tier 1 player with an SS7 network. We see the benefit of that, maybe not a new technology, but a new usage can have to face artificial inflation traffic, fraud. So that's something that we are looking at. The new business channels, RCS, WhatsApp for Business, are there a threat, opportunity? What can we do? What will be this new technology to reach end users? What this will create? Next generation firewalls, having an active role in monetization. We can see that the new 5G enabled firewalls can better protect the networks, the data analytics, and once again provide more information so that we can make better decisions. And last but not least, the new generation of APIs that focusing on providing network elements and making more rich API interfaces. That's again ideas. That's a vision of iBasis, but I would like pretty much to discuss all of this with the panel.
Thank you so much, Ricardo Martins. Yeah, far too long. Anyway, it was far too long, but very interesting and good to see what the strategy and the vision of iBasis. So thank you for that. When will you finish this? Because your boss is in the house, so you have to tell when will you deliver?
Let's say some of these things are already being incorporated in our day-to-day. Some others are in our product roadmap. And because I'm on sales and not on product, I cannot say exactly, but the idea is to bring this to the market as soon as possible, not necessarily in a big single package, but whenever a certain solution we think is ready and can be integrated with our customers and our partners, then it can be, again, the example we gave about Flash Call is something that is happening already.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ricardo? From the audience, of course. You were mentioned already. The gentleman was already mentioned. Nick Lane, Mobile Squared. Okay, Nasia.
Right. I like what you had in your roadmap with the new services that are coming through. Couple questions. I like that I saw 5G APIs enabled to reach APIs. Fantastic, awesome. I want to see more people doing that. How about messaging enabled IoT? You're doing messaging, you're doing IoT.
Are you throwing a curveball here now?
Yes.
I'm giving them a good revenue idea for free.
It's free of charge this time, Nasia. Fantastic. Ricardo?
Yeah, it's not an easy one. IoT is definitely one of the areas we are putting efforts to grow. The complementary or the synergies between IoT and messaging is still something we need to explore internally. So the answer to your question is we don't have a concrete date. I think in any case, being two verticals that are part of a strategic axis of iBasis, I think that should be soon in the roadmap.
Fantastic, good news.
Thank you, Nasia. Mr. Lane, Mobile Squared.
Thanks. Hi, Ricardo. How you doing? You mentioned flash calling, and you mentioned that some operators would look to block it, some would look to monetize it. So, are you seeing what kind of trends you see in the discussions you're having? Then is it a regional kind of thing where, you know, in some regions they see it as a monetization opportunity, some see it to block it? What kind of trends can you share with us that you're seeing?
Yeah, let's say I think what we see is the first driver for.
Sorry, it's Ara's question as well.
Okay,
It's a joint question.
So I will. Good. I will even improve the answer. No, I think we see definitely that the first driver for the usage of this technology was the cost reduction, and the usage in certain markets happened because the price of A2P termination was too high. So then when we are discussing with MNOs, I think their first concern is to protect the current A2P revenues. So their first reaction is to block because they are not interested in to monetize at a lower level. Some could be open already to look into it, but always on a perspective that this will generate additional traffic, which by the use case up to the moment we cannot identify. So and mostly in the regions where the A2P pricing is too high, this concern with the blockage to protect the current revenues is very clear. Maybe in other markets where the A2P is not so high, we see more questions about, is this additional traffic, could be monetized at a certain price, should be this price below in a certain percentage from the A2P. But so that's a bit our view.
Okay, thank you. Scott, want to jump in?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a question or a statement, or I'm not sure where this is going, but I think on the flash calling part, I find it so we're quite uniquely positioned that we're within a mobile operator with a wholesale business that also works with basically part of our investment fund in a load of enterprises. And when I look at the flash calling as a product, I find it really curious or interesting that there's so many businesses selling flash calling as a product. And at the same time, we're saying, well, operators might just block it. And I mean, I'm not particularly experienced on the voice side of the business. I come from a messaging perspective. So I say, yeah, great, block it. But I find it interesting that there's just so much promotion around flash calling. Every one of these events, there's people selling their flash calling solutions. And then when you talk to operators, they're like, oh yeah, we're trying to work out how to block that. I don't know whether you come across that or what you.
Yeah, in a certain sense, yeah, I agree with you. I think the work that still needs to be done for the people that want to promote flash call is to prove that really the use case has a better customer experience, because then on the MNO side, their position is quite obvious. Unless there is additional traffic, they want to protect certain revenues. On a more neutral point of view, we see the effects on the networks of the non-controlled flash call. So in terms of congestion, in terms of quality impairments on the transit networks, on the voice side. So whatever is the decision in terms of commercial model, we see value to find a way to identify and to control and to be aware of it. Then if you want to monetize it or block it, then it's a decision to be taken between the MNO and the enterprises. But the lack of control, the lack of quality of service, it's something that we also interested, because we run a voice network globally, and That's important.
Edwin?
I think blocking is not a solution because you're killing also a legitimate stream of calls at the same time. And that is the challenge you are facing. Are there real solutions at this moment? Definitely, there are solutions. But you see that the world is becoming significantly more sophisticated, and your algorithm to detect legitimate flash calling versus non-legitimate is extremely difficult. About monetization, it's not an additional revenue stream. It is simply protecting what you have and what you want to keep. If people think it's an additional revenue stream, find another business.
Thank you. Ira? And Ira and Nick, is this nearly answering your question?
Not really. I think it's so fascinating that we're sitting at a messaging event and we're talking about flash calling. I just want to point that out, that it's kind of wild.
Or your question.
Kind of wild to me that after 20 something years of SMS, we ended up talking about voice at an SMS conference, but it's okay.
CPAS, right?
Well, yes, this is true CPAS. Actually, that was actually where I was leading to. So
sorry.
No, it's you mentioned fraud, Ricardo, and preventing the fraud. And I don't see a lot of technology innovation coming in, which is the topic of this, to try and reduce fraud, for example. So if we qualify the three major types of fraud affecting the messaging industry at the time, we have artificially generated or inflated traffic, which is a big thing. Self-inflicted wound. Nobody came from outside the industry. Hey guys, you need to start doing this. We did it ourselves. People in this room or people outside in the halls, they're involved in it. And many of us are suffering from it. And worse, our customers are suffering from it. So that's the first part. The second one is the inflated prices of SMS over the last year and a half, 2 years, which, by the way, it's not a coincidence that these two things happen more or less at the same time, the artificially inflated traffic and the rising costs. And it's also about the same time that a lot of exclusive commitments were signed around the world for SMS gateways and back whatever. All three things happen more or less the same time. No coincidences in this world. The three of them affect each other. What is the industry going to do? What innovation can the industry bring to stop those two, which we inflicted on ourselves? The third one, which is smishing and spoofing and bypass and hijack, that actually comes from outside the industry. And we actually can fix that. And we're involved in MEF in a group that's working now to stop that. But what is the industry going to do to stop? What innovations can the industry come to bring to stop the two types of fraud that we ourselves created? What are we doing to stop it?
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah. It's a very hot topic at this moment. You see what's happening in the past 3-4 months. OTP via RCS, hyperscalers significantly scaling WhatsApp. Exactly. Did we cause it? Did the market cause it? Definitely yes. And that is the ridiculous prices of 20 cents where you see commitments which are ridiculous, prepayments which are ridiculous at this moment. It will only generate, and Nick can write that up already for his next presentation, more gray, more black traffic at all. And that's the issue. How are we going to, let's say, protect it? We had the same issue in the voice world as well.
Yep.
We had the generated traffic. Now you see in SMS, the trashing is increasing and all kinds of artificial traffic is also generated. I think it's a long path. It will not be solved instantly, but it needs something, some movement going on to protect our business. And that's also the reason why I'm sitting here, because let's say it's impacting my business at this moment and the reputation for all of us going forward. I do not have an answer for your question because I think it's a hot topic and it needs more than one person or one company to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I guess the solution it's part through behavior and commercial model, and then the other part of technological innovation against things like AI or machine learning can help to improve. So it will change completely the picture. No, because the issue is behavior and commercial model, but that will help. The fact that we can use SS7 probably will help to mitigate the artificial traffic. So there are small things that then are we going to use it or not? And because an innovation can be used both ways always.
This panel session is already a mess, so let's discuss it. I have
One comment.
I'm coming
Quick
to you,
one.
and then I'll get you all back to what Ira asked us to talk about, technological innovation. So we'll get back there. So thank you for the mess, guys. Really appreciate it. Nastia, the floor is yours.
Oh, come on, it's fun. That's what,
That's
panels
why we're
like this
sitting
are
here,
fun.
right?
Exactly. Just to remind everybody that AI and ML is not going to solve the problem because the data that they get has to be clean. And since we're sending it, pardon my language, shitty data, you know what the results will be.
I'm happy to hear that you
Let's
talk
not put
some
our
time.
eggs in one basket because AI and ML only will produce results that we give it. So I wish you would. I wish you would.
Having said that, taking you back, guys, taking you back to the technological innovation. Let's discuss it. And thank you for your contribution, because this is exactly why we're sitting here. So you're absolutely right, Ira. And guys, thank you so much for your contribution support. So, Mila, I want to come to you, and I want to come to Boyan as well. As we mentioned, we see that the messaging environment is changing, right? Let's put it like this. So what technological innovation do you see, and the challenges that it will face from your point of view?
Okay, I just wanted maybe to continue the conversations that started, but it will be about the technologies and the innovations. It's just a funny thing, this AI and ML, because from one point of view, like again, going out of this door, going to the conference, and there will be like lots of people for sure, for whom AI and ML is helping to generate this traffic, artificially generate this traffic, and the rest of the guys will be like making some services, products which are preventing this artificial generated traffic and fraud. So like we are living in funny times when one technology can, at one hand, help the bad guys, and from the other hand, help the good guys.
We used to have a word for that.
Once again,
We used to have a word for that. You know what it is?
which one?
Going in circles.
Yep. And that is a problem, actually.
Okay, Boyan, please.
Well, I definitely see that. I'm also agreeing with you guys that we are on a path where some things are changing, right? There are new innovations coming in. We had different products coming in as a replacement or as an add-on or upscale of the messaging itself, right? So some of them are like, as you mentioned, like flash call, frictionless authentication as well, AI included. So it will definitely be challenging also to maintain, but it's also the same as every other technology in place, right? It gets evolved, the evolution comes into place, addition. So I think we are just going to work harder together that we maintain on the same and grow and evolve from where we are now, right? And in the same manner, the solutions to protect ourselves and also to maintain will be coming and being more developed.
I'm happy, actually. Thank you, Boyan. I'm happy with what Mila actually said, because we are, I mentioned it, we're going in circles, but it's actually a self-fulfilling prophecy, actually, what we're doing, and we're fooling ourselves and we're helping ourselves and then not, and yes. And so, Scott, enlighten us a little bit. What do you think should be the path? Or maybe you want to crack it down, not only on the challenges, but also on the main drivers.
No, I think from my perspective, I'm really excited about what the future looks like for messaging. I mean, I think when we look at things like the buzzword conversational commerce, I was in China recently, and the way the Chinese market is dealing with this online commerce on a huge scale, but also down to a micro scale where, you know, e-agriculture and small independent vendors are able to access a huge market. This stuff is already driven by the CPaaS suite of products. So whether it be voice communication, messaging, and when I say messaging, it could be SMS, it could be all of the omni-channel offering there. And then also into video, which, you know, we're seeing more and more out of our kind of friends in the industry moving into video services as well. I think there's a really exciting set of use cases that has a real financial impact and a more, I'm going to say, more measurable financial impact when it comes to sales through messaging. And I think, you know, you mentioned, Ricardo mentioned in the presentation, the kind of omni-channel stuff. I think we haven't quite harnessed the power of it yet. There's still lots of different ecosystems working independently. And of course, new ones popping up when it comes to messaging channels. But if we can really manage those effectively, I think that's such a powerful tool. And we don't need to always worry about what's going to happen to one-time passwords.
Okay, Ricardo?
No, I agree. I think that all of these bad scenarios we were talking about in terms of evolution of this or collision of these two or three different effects, that price too high, then substitution, looking for alternatives or reducing the use cases, is mostly on OTP traffic. Of course, there is a wide traffic still to be explored, which is mainly local. So when we talk about international traffic, you know, OTP is a big percentage, but then locally there is a different scheme. In local markets, we have marketing, notifications. So we have, you know, very immense streams of traffic, and we also have the challenge that normally Nick highlights, that the number of business enterprises or brands using messaging as a channel is still very low. So theoretically, the potential to grow is immense. Yes, maybe on certain segments we will struggle, you know, but others, the potential is huge. So I agree.
But we will also probably create, again, a couple of hurdles for ourselves, right? Right? Because that's what we're good at in telco, right? Especially wholesale, you know?
Yeah, creative.
I like the 400-meter hurdles. I know, let's make it 500. Why? You know? That's throwing a curveball. So, Mila, what do you think? Listening to this, where do you think that the margins, let's say profit, will kick in from what we just quickly discussed, and all the bad things, the good things, what have you? But where's the margin? Where's the, in Italy, they would say, where's the grana? You know?
Just from what I'm analyzing from BHG and what I see in BHG, we are now like focusing on not only developing this, for example, artificial intelligence chatbots into two-way conversation. We're not only doing this in the voice services we provide, but also the platform. So we have a platform as a product, which is like for the wholesale part of the market, those who want to start a SMEs business or those who want to change the platform. And we are doing lots of things with AI and ML there. And what I see actually, the things opening a door for really making our margin more effective, because it's the way the platform actually is performing, and it can be performing better and better and better when we like teach the platform to how to differentiate the traffic, how to cut off, for example, these gray traffic and so on and so on. So the margin for me here is not only in messaging itself, but in the instruments and the tools we are using for this messaging.
Okay, Boyan?
I would agree on that. Yes, that the products the market is developing will be used for the messaging itself, but also to develop other products, as I mentioned before, which will build on top of messaging itself. Because as any market, as we evolve, it will need it can't remain only on SMS. SMS will always be there to a certain extent, but we also need to open ourselves for different technologies so we can grow. So I believe that we together as a community also, we will just need to adjust ourselves to the upcoming changes and see how we can do better. So I agree with Mila, yes, partially, but also with Scott, accommodating other regions with other markets which are being developed and also customized to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that Ricardo highlighted was SS7 being the like
Rebirth.
the rebirth of SS7, which it's, I mean, I think 10 years ago, we were all giving the spiel about SS7 gives you transparency, end-to-end DLR, handset DLR, all of this cool stuff that basically no one's spoken about for 5 years. Because at the end of the day, all of the big OTTs are using conversion rate data. DLR doesn't mean anything. No one can trust DLR anyway. What's the delivery report? Who cares?
And now it's the wake-up call?
Yeah, and I think it's funny that, you know, we work in, as you said, we work in cycles in this industry anyway. And I'm seeing more and more that those businesses with SS7 capabilities and the infrastructure, and by the way, not just infrastructure, but also know-how, because there seems to be actually a big gap in understanding, technical understanding
It's
of
a
how
thingy. It's a thingy.
yeah, how to actually leverage it. I think we'll start moving away when it comes to that real bulk messaging, which we're talking about, that like global international OTP type messaging, where suddenly you do have an advantage in this really murky business to have that transparency end to end. Yeah, and I thought it was funny that you had that in your presentation as like technological innovation, SS7. Yeah, so, but yeah, I think it's cool.
Well, in French, they have a very beautiful word. It's called the Renaissance, which is actually the rebirth, you know? So, and sometimes, you know, your old shoes are actually quite good. Or you open up the cupboard and you think, well, you know what? They were not bad. I have this with my 1990s Western boots, by the way, but that's a complete different story. Some people in the audience would understand me, but the most of you are so young. So that's it. All righty. Talking about the latest technological innovation, what I am curious about is what would you, I mean, nobody has the glass ball. We all don't know exactly what is needed, what will come to us. We think, I mean, people like you know, Nick with Mobile Squared is helping the complete industry, telling us, hey guys, this is where we're going. Watch out for this. This is what happened actually, and this would be the trend. But by the end of the day, nobody knows, okay? Because we all say, we're gonna grow. We're gonna grow. Yeah, we're gonna grow. Yeah, is it volume, revenue, profit? Well, what is it, guys? Tell me. Then it becomes a bit more silent. The thing is, when I'm looking for, and maybe, I mean, we didn't, you know, discuss this previously, but what would you wish for? What would be your latest, your technology or the technological innovation? What would you like? What would you wish for, which would come into the future? Maybe to help us, to support us, to do better your business, or is there anything?
I don't know for sure, but I would tell you a thing that in BSG, we've been a messaging company for lots of years. And like voice companies are going to SMS, and we in BSG went to voice, but like slightly. We've launched our voice bot service not so long ago, and it's based on AI, and I truly believe in it. But you know, when I listen to the conversations and I'm talking to this voice bot, I'm a little bit worried all the time that my phone, that voice knows me so good. So yep, I think that these services will still benefit to all of us, to the telecom industry. And but you still know, we are now working in the Eastern European market, and there are so many companies that are not using messaging at all. They're using emails, for example, but they're not using SMS or some other messengers. They're not using OTT, and we are focusing on this part of the market as well. And especially when you're starting talking to them about some AI-based services, they are just like, wow. So is it really working like this? Is it really, does it really can help us in this and this and this? And it analyzes and it works like this. Okay, so I suppose that I will say not from the wholesale, but for the enterprise side of the business, we need to talk to clients. We need to explain to them how it works and how AI ML services can benefit to their business. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Boyan, what is your outlook for the future? What would you wish?
I would actually wish for I wouldn't say just the product itself, but also better cooperation together as a carrier community to work on those, let's say, disabling all those negative impacts of our market, of our messaging world, and also then to improve it from that point on. So I think it will be just a better cooperation of us, the good guys, to make it a better for us.
And you know, Boyan, a better world starts with yourself, right?
True.
That's that's what we need to do in everything. By
True.
Thank you, Boyan. Scott?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I'm excited about a little bit more creativity when it comes to use cases. And, you know, we have this really powerful tool, which is messaging. And it's only really touching the surface when it comes to the use cases that are out there. And I don't know if that's because we're not very good at selling it, because we get very bogged down in like how wholesale messaging is like rates and conversion rate and price. I like the idea of, you know, how can we create a really valuable product, which generally means how can you assign a value through sales, ideally. So how can we really like impact that e-commerce business? And, you know, we see that WhatsApp now has its marketplace, so that's kind of moving in that direction. I was actually speaking to a friend of mine over the weekend. He works for Instagram on the shopping part of Instagram, and that's basically they're running shopping services through chat. And I think we can really, you know, it's going to be interesting how we can try and transform that e-commerce business into conversational commerce, and that overlaps with AI. And can you make sure you have bots that are like dealing with a real person, I guess, and all of that technological innovation, and then positioning. And I think, you know, in the next few years, it'll be really interesting to see who steps out and is able to do that really effectively.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask a question to your senior management, which is sitting in the back for SBTS, Gene. He needs sales training. So, please, coming. Microphone is coming.
Thank you. Gene Pradas, BTS. First of all, I mean, there is a potential in the market, as Nick will say. Less than 5% of the companies are presently using messaging as part of their, you know, communication. So from a market perspective, there's a market there wide open. Now, one of the things I think we need to realize that fraud is a business. It's a money-making business model. And as long as people are making money, they're going to still focus on doing whatever they can on the fraud. On the technology side, we can come up with alternatives to work more efficiently, optimize our resources, all you want. But still, if fraud is a business, there's going to be people there who are going to be focused on it. So that's going to continue to grow. What are the ways to possibly attack it? Because, you know, as was commented, we could all collaborate, you know, have a drink together and talk about how nice the world is. But the fact is that the only way to really get this put in place is to get regulation somehow. All right. You'll see it on the voice side. There's a number of, you know, regulatory bodies around the world who are putting in certain regulations on whether it's stir shaking, whether it's on, you know, whatever you want to on the fraud side. Something is going to have to happen on the SMS side, messaging side, in order to at least have some effect on the controlling of the fraud aspect. I mean, I was just talking to someone just earlier outside after the first session, and when the first session was talked about 30% increase, and Igor had mentioned, well, it depends where, what, and what destinations, et cetera. You know, someone said, yeah, 30%, maybe it's 35% is fraud. and only 30% is growth. So who knows what's really happening, you know? So I think we need to get a better feel from it. Collaboration, of course, will always help, but I think we probably need some kind of regulatory impact in order to really take this in seriously.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Gene. Thank you, really appreciate it. Before we come to the closing statement of my dear friend Ricardo and iBasis, I would like to ask, anybody else have a question? Here we are. Okay, guys, you got 1 minute each for a short question, please. I need to be rude.
Hi. So my question to the panel is, we're always talking about how only 5% of businesses are using SMS and yeah, something like it. So assuming that the market could grow like 12 to 20 times larger, but do we take into consideration if the actual consumers, the end customers, are ready to actually receive 20 times, 12 times more messages? I mean, is there the actual room to grow that the market would actually take?
Let's say my take on that is that, let's say yes, because most of that growth would probably be domestic growth with brands that the customers have a relationship. So I don't see the increase of messages as a negative side. You know, if it's unknown brand or if it's, you know, smishing or the increase of an attack, yes. But if it's a brand that your bank, your retail store, your car repair office, that's something you are expected and you are willing to receive those messages. International brands, I think, depend on the evolution, but we see every day a new brand is popping up as social media. So I think that the customer is as long as we can also provide security and we can, you know, prevent fraud and smishing and these types of end user fraud.
We're always too late. Always too late anyway. That's the business model. That's the business model anyway. But you're right. Thank you for your answer. Nasia, quick one.
It's more of a statement rather than a question. I agree with what Gene is saying about the fraud industry being an industry, a big industry, a lot of money. So as long as that is out there, it's not going to go anywhere. And regulation will help with that. The other thing that as an industry, as a messaging industry, or people from the voice, we have to start looking a little bit more broader. And we need to start looking and thinking about and bringing together the identity of things, because the devices, the billions of devices that will be connected out there, and as humans, our identity will be through some sort of a device in the future. That will help mitigate a lot of the fraud, because without that identity, you know, you cannot pass. Obviously, I'm not talking about solution that will happen next year, right? But it's going to be a continuum. But unless we start thinking in that broader sense and incorporating that in our thinking, that the whole world is moving towards the identity of things, right? So including us, I'm including humans as part of the things. So it's going to be a very small market that we are addressing, and I'm not going to have a cohesive solution.
Okay, thank you, Nasia, for your comment. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would before I'll give the word to Ricardo for his takeaway. Thank you for your questions. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your contributions and interaction, because it's important to discuss these kind of topics. I know that it's not enough, but trust me, over the coming days we have loads of topics passing by. I mean, even later this afternoon we have Fabrizio from Horizon who is presenting as well and moderating a panel session. So thank you for your questions, and if not all your questions are answered yet, I mean, we're here, we walk around, so talk to each other. That's why we have this Congress here. Over to you, Ricardo.
Yeah, thank you.
What will the future bring us?
I think what we had in this panel, the discussion we had in this panel, highlights the challenge and the nature of the challenge. I think there's no quick solution, but normally, you eat an elephant piece by piece. So we try to address the topics one at each time. So if there's an issue with trust, we need to, from big hyperscalers that want to move away from messaging, maybe we need to address that issue. If it's with SS7, if it's with the regulation, if it is registration of sender IDs. So I think we need to be optimistic and try to address the issues that are there one by one, having in mind that if we don't do that, it's a lose-lose. So then the market will shift. It's not that, if we don't do it, maybe we will benefit about it. No, certain trends in certain segments, are so evident that if we don't take a measurement, everyone will lose. And that will stimulate the cooperation that Bojan was mentioning. And in that cooperation, we can use certain innovations or technological advances so that bit by bit, everything will help. There's no secret formula, but we as part of the ecosystem and the wholesalers and all of us that we are in this room, we play a big part because we can connect the source of the traffic to the termination. We connect the brands to the end users and to the MNOs. So we are in the middle, but we have a big responsibility and a big power to act.
Thank you so much. Just one quick comment. I mean, Igor in the last panel session was talking about sharks. He's talking about elephants. So clearly we're close to the zoo here. So if you haven't visited, have a look at the zoo. And with that note, I would like to thank you, Ricardo, iBasis, of course, for sponsoring this session. Mila, very an honor having you here. Scott, fantastic. Thank you so much. Bojan, cool. Next time, please promise you'll be here in the room.
I definitely promise, and thank you so much for having me. It was a great session. Lovely to
Thank you
meet
very much for your contribution and fantastic having you. And thank you to the audience. Thank you for being here. And again, we're going to discuss more and more subject matter expertise topics during the coming days. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your interaction. And you know what? You're the coolest audience in the world. So have lunch now.